being accepted into Wharton is something that was like really inspiring to me, but at the same time it was scary. I mean, how am I supposed to know? And so I think it's really cool for you to share that and kind of bring that out and highlight that. Can you talk a little bit, did you experience any sort of culture shock moving into Boston, kind of the Northeast area?
Oh, yeah, quite a bit. Quite a bit of culture shock on so many different levels. And I realize that each and every day, oh, wow, that was another big thing for me, too. So geography was the first thing for me. Being from the Midwest, meat and potatoes lifestyle, to New England and seafood. And I'm still getting used to it here of being seafood and lobster being cheaper than, in some cases, ground beef, where it's the other way around. So that's one thing. The people are another thing. I come from a lot more of a smaller setting and a lot of community. Like I keep emphasizing, that's what I look for, is community and just openness. And coming here, it's a little bit different. And at first, to me, it came off as they're not as friendly. But then I realized that's just a way of life, and that's just how it is. And you just have to get to know people a lot more. And it's hard to do that because you don't see people on a daily basis here. When you leave Harvard Square. So that was tough for me too. The accents is another thing. But I think the biggest thing for me as well was just I had a technological culture shock. And coming to using an iPhone was something, and a MacBook Pro, and all of these things. I came from a rural setting, and so we worked with what we had compared to here where there's a lot of different resources. And Ivy Leagues, that's one thing, is take advantage of that. A lot of great resources here. So I went through people, geography, to technology. Those are my top three, I think, I have to say.
And would you say you kind of, I mean, this obviously changes for each person, but it's something that I always like to hear about, because I kind of had a big culture shock. Have you grown to love Boston and kind of that, the history in Boston, like those people, like that language, more, or kind of like missing home more? I mean, what kind of both kind of intention?
Comes up as both, I think. Living here, I appreciate what I had at home a lot more now living here. But when I go back home, I really appreciate what I have here a lot. And so it works both ways. And I really has grown on me a lot. It's coming to the point now where I could see myself maybe living in New England or the East Coast for sure after college. I mean, it seems forever away, but time really flies. And so, yeah, it grows on you, and I absolutely love it. I've gotten used to it. I mean, there's even certain instances, and it's kind of disheartening. I talk to friends on the phone back home, and they say that I lost my North Dakotan accent, and I was like, that was a little tough for me to realize. But overall, I really just learned to embrace it completely, try to immerse yourself into it as much as you can, and just try new things. And that's how I take President Spell's words on that, on really going out of that comfort zone. It's really important, and I can definitely see why.
No, for sure. So that was kind of like the initial introduction to Harvard. You're a year and a half in, well, almost a year and a half in. Let's kind of tail down a little bit. Obviously, like, Kennedy School of Government, that's like one of like the meccas, right, of political science. Can you kind of talk about what the experience is, like how are the courses really like, and kind of maybe what would be helpful is to contrast them to your previous exposure. I know you did some community college and some, well, obviously high school work before you arrived. So can you kind of contrast the two and say, like, what makes it different, if anything?
Absolutely. Well, Harvard and a lot of Ivy Leagues in general, they're a lot smaller, and a lot of people, they view Harvard, Ivy Leagues as these huge institutions, as tens of thousands of people. In most cases, it's actually 10,000 people. But the classes here, the average class size is about 12 to 15 people, except your first year and a half, in my case, 2 years. You're going to take a lot of the same courses together, but for myself, it really ranges. There are seminars we take where it's 10 to 15 people, whereas in another class I'm taking is Justice. It's the most popular course here at Harvard. It's 1,000 people in the lecture hall. And so, 10 to 1,000 people.
Wow.
But it's a lot of diversity. But in most cases, it's 10 to 12 people, 12 to 15 people in the class. So that's basically the setup.
And then how are the courses, I mean, is it like a lot of essay writing? Basically just, can you give us an idea? Like, if I'm sitting on the outside, I've never been to Harvard. I'm kind of thinking about doing law school maybe, or undergraduate degree at Harvard, political science. What can I expect?
Well, a lot of reading, and a lot of writing. A lot of reading and a lot of writing are the two main things. I mean, the thing to really realize is you don't really spend a lot of time in class settings as what you are accustomed to in high school. My days vary each day where I'm in school for maybe 3 hours a day. In some cases it's 6 hours, depends on sections and such. But the setup here is you have a class with a lecture, and if it's whether that be 300 to 1,000, and obviously how does the professor grade all the things, and how it works is from those kinds of classes we split up into sections, and so we do the lectures twice a week, and then once a week for about an hour and a half we have a section where we break off into that 10 to 15 people class, and we go over the concepts and discussions and the readings, and that's where, Harvard does a great job of really making a smaller setting and more comfortable to where you can really engage and really discuss the issues. So that's, for me, that's what it is. They do a lot of reading and a lot of writing, and of course on the other end of the spectrum there's a lot of problem sets, and my roommate, as a matter of fact, he's an engineering major, so he does weekly problem sets, and they do the same setup. Some classes are very large, 300 people, but they still have the sections, and those are really helpful.
Right. No, for sure. Have you found, class discussions, can you kind of describe those a little bit, and how, those 12 to 15 people kind of interact? Is it someone really lecturing, or is it discussion based once it reaches that size, or how does that actually play out?
No, it's actually very much discussion based. There is a TF, teaching fellow, and he or she will, they'll bring up the points and what was to be taken out of the lectures, but it's really student led in all of it. In all the sections I've done so far, they're all student led, and it's mostly us talking the entire time, sharing our thoughts. And sometimes it turns into a debate, and so the TF will turn it back into the points. But it's really led by students so that we can start to understand what is going on, what was the purpose of the lectures and the readings, and how it pertains to the whole topic of whatever the class is. So it's a much more intimate setting, and it's really helpful for me. It's really good too on writing papers, because it gives me a great chance to hear the other side of other people's ideas and different things you may not have thought of. So that's really good, because sometimes you're just going to get caught up in professors' great lectures, and you might completely lose the whole intent of why he or she is saying it. So it's really helpful.
Yeah, for sure. So this might be backtracking a little bit, but I know one of the things that I get a lot is after you get accepted, you have to choose what you're going to study. And I have a lot of people, even current friends who are sophomores or juniors or freshmen especially, not really knowing which major to actually pursue. How did you end up picking government? And how did you kind of feel like that was really the right choice to make?
Sure. Well, at Harvard, I am about to declare my concentration major in November, so I still am undeclared and technically considered until next month. And that's what's great about Harvard. And a lot of Ivy Leagues, I'm not sure how they're all the same or not, but that first year, freshman year, they want you to explore. And so one good thing is don't come in. I mean, it's great if you have your mind set to something, but definitely be open to taking those other courses that are just something that may not be offered to in your high school, or something you just completely never considered. And in my case, that was sociology. I didn't take a great approach to it. I really didn't have an opportunity to take it. And so I took some courses last year and even a semester on sociology. Different forums and things that take place outside of the class settings, and even talking with friends. So those are really important, and taking advantage of everything